together, and it ended up in hung jury. They threw out the civil rights charges, but it ended up in a hung jury on the assault charges. And we didn't take it back, no money, so we didn't do it. But it was an honor to take Jesse Jackson to court. Just doing that alone. If you want to really live and have a good life and enjoy life, take on this spiritual battle that we have to deal with. I have the best life because I'm standing up for what is right. And I have to confess to you that I have not always been this way. I was a coward, I was weak, I was a Democrat, a liberal. And I'll tell you how that changed real fast. The way I changed was, I moved to California at the age of 18, long story short again, and on my own I was very insecure, I was very emotional. I had a lot of doubt and fear. I didn't know my purpose in life. And so I started to go to some of the churches around town in hope that I can get better, get over this thing that I had inside of me. And so I would go to some of the preachers and I would say, I'm very insecure. I don't know what I want to do in life. I have fear and doubt. And what should I do? And they would say, oh, just read the Bible and you'll be fine. I'm like, I read the Bible. They're like, well, don't worry about it. It's racism. The white man is against you. And so for the first time in my life, I started to hate white folks. It's weird. Growing up on the plantation in Alabama, I was never taught to hate white Americans. My grandparents said that if you treat people right, you work hard, you can do what you want in this country. I remember going to a movie theater once as a teenager in Alabama, and black people had to sit in the balcony. We were not allowed to sit downstairs with white Americans. I don't know why they had it that way, because the balcony seating was better than downstairs. It was better downstairs than upstairs. I remember for colors only signs and all that stuff, but we were never taught to hate. Not one time did I ever hear them talk about how bad white people are and we should hate them. They taught us to love and do the right thing. But when I moved to LA, I recognized my insecurity, so I started looking for the answer, and they told me it was white racism. And for the first time, I started to hate white folks. And as you know, when you hate someone, you become like what you hate. You take on the identity of what you hate or who you hate. And my life went to hell in a handbasket. I ended up on welfare because I started to smoke weed, marijuana. I had so much conflict from hating, I tried to get rid of it, so I smoked marijuana. Anybody ever smoke marijuana? All right. The rest of you are not going to tell us, right? You did in hell. Well, to get rid of my conflict, I would smoke marijuana. And then I found out that if you're black and you're on drugs, you could go down to the welfare office and get a check. And so I went down and I said to them, I'm on drugs, I can't work, I have a problem. And they said, okay. They gave me $300 in cash a month. They paid my rent, food stamp, free medical care, and all that kind of stuff. And I got worse instead of getting better. Because when you don't work, you don't take care of yourself, you don't develop that character. So I got worse. Long story short, I wanted to get over this conflict that I had. And so the Bible said that you should know yourself. So I'm trying to understand myself. One day I was riding in my car and I heard a Jewish preacher who believes in Jesus. I happened to turn the radio on, and he said that when you pray, you should be still and know God. He said, just be quiet. You don't have to hoop and holler. Just let the truth catch up with you. And so I'm desperate to overcome my weakness. So I go home that night, and I sat quietly in my bedroom. And this time I wasn't begging for anything. Because normally when I would pray to God, I would be begging. Oh Lord, bless my mama, bless my daddy. Give me a house, give me some money. I used to ask God for a wife. You ever ask God for a wife? Every time I would ask for a wife, he would give me a woman, and I couldn't handle the woman. And so I stopped asking for a wife. I said, you know what, just forget about this one, God. We'll just work on these other issues. But this time, I just sat quietly in my room because I wanted to overcome my conflict. And all of a sudden, I realized that I resented my parents. I resented my father because my mother got pregnant when they were dating. And when she told him about it, he denied it. So she ended up marrying my stepfather before I was born because it was embarrassment to get, to have a baby out of wedlock. So she married my stepfather, but she hated my father from that point forward. And she didn't want me to have anything to do with him. She would put him down. Whatever I would ask about my father, he's no good, forget about him. And I became angry at my mother because I thought she was mean for trying to turn me away from my father. I had this hunger inside of me for my father. I didn't put it there. I had a yearning for him. It was like an emptiness. Something was missing in my life. And I have to tell you, the worst thing that can happen to a child, whether male or female, black or white, is to turn them away from their fathers. When you turn children away from their fathers, you turn them away from God, and they grow up with a void, an anger, and emptiness the rest of their lives until they can forgive and return back to Him. But do not, if you turn your kids away from their fathers, you need to hurry up and take care of that issue. Because if you don't love your earthly father, you will never love God. It's not going to happen. How can you say you love God who you've never seen and hate your earthly father? So I realized this, right? And I started to cry. At the time I was 38 years old. I just cried like a baby because I realized that hatred I had for my parents was holding me back in life. And then I also realized that they couldn't help themselves. And so I had to go and apologize because God said when you forgive others, He'll forgive you. Long story short again, my mother came to California. She was over at her sister's house, and I'm on my way over there to forgive her, to tell her I resented her and I'm sorry for doing it. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. And I'm thinking, why am I so afraid of my mother? But I remember every time I tried to speak up as a kid, she would yell at me, she had no patience, and I resented her for that. So I get there and I take her to the room and I told her, all of my life, I resented you because you tried to turn me away from my father, you had no patience. And for the first time she told me about her life and exactly what she did to me, her mother had done it to her. And I didn't know it. I thought my grandmother was an angel sent by God, right? But she said that she resented her mother and she had done the same thing to me and she didn't know it, so she apologized. But I forgave my mother, and in that moment, God forgave me. And He took away all of my fears, all of my conflict. He took away my doubts, and He gave me perfect peace. And 20 years have gone by, and I've gone through more hell for standing up for what is right than I had gone through prior to that. But because I can see that it's a spiritual battle, I should also avoid, getting into that by not hating what I have to go through. I don't resent anything anymore. I speak up, but don't resent. And that's what protects me from that. And so, after God forgave me for all of that, I went back one more time. And I said to Him, you know what, I'm sorry for being a Democrat. I said, I was a liberal Democrat, God, I'm sorry. And He forgave me for that. And so I left the Democratic Party and I became a conservative Republican. And I am that all the way, a conservative Republican. That's what we're waking our young men and girls up too. They got to drop that anger so they can see the right thing to do. Because when you have anger, right look like wrong and wrong look like right. You can't really make the right decisions. That's why you got to forgive, and the power is in forgiveness. And over the last, since started Bond, I've been banned from 3 radio stations around the country. I remember the first radio station I was on, it was on a Christian station in Los Angeles, because I wanted to wake up black people. I wanted to tell them that they're being used by the people they trust the most. That they need to start thinking for themselves. They need to get married. They need to stop hating. So I go on this Christian station, and I'm putting out this message, and then all of a sudden people are calling in, and I'm feeling good about it. And I open up the lines, and they start calling me names. They call me every name in the book. Then they would say, the white man is paying you to do this. I mean, they threatened the manager. But whenever they said that white people were paying me to tell the truth, I would say, hold on, let me do a commercial break. If there are any white people out there that will pay me to do this, then here's my phone number and address. Because if I could get paid to go through this hell, this is the right thing to do, right?